Sports Talk Mississippi at SEC Media Days. Where are we? SEC Media Days in Dallas. Lane Kiffin joins us, the head coach of Ole Miss, and there's so much change year to year with teams and carryover. But last year was kind of unique, and you've got so many guys coming back. In some ways, did this season start with the Peach Bowl last year?
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation because it feels like that. And majority of those guys had announced they were coming back at that time or had told me. So I felt like in that game, that post-game conference, which actually, Ivy was up there as MVP and Preseason, they'd already said they were coming back. So I do feel like that was where sometimes you have great seasons and in a great bowl win like that, and but then you got to regroup all your team, from new players, and so I do think that's a good point.
Have you ever had a year where it felt like there was as much carryover from one season into the next, whether it's with off-season expectations or all the players kind of being bought in and ready to roll, knowing what the goal and kind of the target is going into the next year?
Yeah, we did have a year at USC, which really we didn't do well. So it's not a great story, except for you learn from the past. I think we had no depth, so there was a much different situation because we were under sanctions, and our roster, I think, was in the 50s of the amount of scholarship players. So, but now this would be the most similar of that as far as preseason attention. But I've reminded our guys, just like the plane ride down here, like none of that means anything. There's plenty of teams like that were ranked really high and didn't do well, and the opposite too. So that's just all outside noise and all outcome oriented instead of process oriented, which is every day what we're doing.
You all have always been considered to be one of the great offensive minds in the college game, but there's so many responsibilities that exist for a head coach now. How much are you able to kind of engage in the offensive process, whether it's leading into a season or week to week during the season?
Well, year to year that changes, and Charlie Weiss has done an amazing job. I have a lot of trust in him. He's kind of grown up. I say grown up, but he's been around me now for a while, all the way back to Alabama. And so there's a lot of trust level there that I don't have to be in there all the time or do everything, and he knows how we'd want it done. So he's done a great job.
And then with a third-year starting quarterback, I would assume that makes it a little easier as well. Where has Jackson grown the most in your mind?
I usually say as they get to this point, their leadership, but he always had that in him as far as pouring into people and being a great teammate. I think now that it's been more time that they've seen that, because he's not, a super vocal leader. He's become more of that, but I just think that these guys really now, after some time with him, have realized how awesome he is.
Does it feel like this is his football team? And I don't even know if that's exactly the way to characterize it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's his team, then I guess I don't have to do anything. Lower my salary, that's for sure. But he.
Wait, were you volunteering to?
Sure. I don't know that I would say that, but as much as to a player in college, in the NFL that happens sometimes. Tom Brady, like they've been there so long, it kind of becomes their team. But I don't think that happens as much in college. But as much as it could in college, I would say he has.
You mentioned Ivy and Preseason after the bowl game. Obviously, Jackson Dart. When you talk about guys coming into the program, and you've talked a lot about culture in the past and having guys that like each other, when you've got a group that is kind of an anchor, does that make it easier to get new players to kind of buy into what you're doing?
Yeah. This is, should be a good recipe to have a chance to be really good with current returning players that know how we do things. So now they're working out in the summer, and even when we're not around, they know how we want things done. With a blended of veteran players from other places that, came here that want to be really good.
Last thing, this one should be easy. Pretend like I'm completely dumb. And Explain to me in your words.
If I was in a joking mood today, that was an easy one. That was a softball one. Go ahead.
I was teeing it up. In your words, offensive football, how it's changed in the last decade from the way you were calling plays 10 years ago to what you're trying to accomplish offensively now.
It's just, I think the speed is so much different now because so many people go faster and elimination of the huddle. And I would say in 10 years, the RPO game that everyone talked about years ago, like, oh, we've gone to RPOs, but now so much is some form of that, that it's really changed the game.
Are you embracing, do you feel like the team is embracing expectations for this season?
I mean, that we have a lot of work to do that in training camp. This is more just about summer workouts, but we'll do a lot of work on that then. We've tried to so far.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yep.